Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2022, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Tim Zunker, and I'm the president with the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to the 2022 elections. We ask voters to arm themselves with the information necessary to make educated choices and to make casting your vote a priority. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org to find out more information about the upcoming election. And now I'd like to introduce Matt Lehman, who is running for Shakopee Mayor. Matt, thank you for joining us today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
My privilege to be here, Tim. My name is Matt Lehman. My wife and I were born and raised in Shakopee. We reside in Shakopee our whole life, along with our children, our parents, and our daughter-in-law, and now 2 grandkids. So kind of get it perspective from all different life cycles, from older folks to the up-and-coming kids. Been on the city council for quite a while. I've been told that in order to be the longest-serving city council member in Shakopee's history, you have to have the trust and confidence of the community. So it's given me a lot of experience. I worked with a lot of different staff members from the county, state, federal, school, and they're elected leaders. So seen quite a bit over the years. I'd like to apply that experience and lead the city of Shakopee. So there's a lot of great things happening in Shakopee. We love Shakopee, or wouldn't be here my whole life. And there's always room for improvements. So I appreciate the work you guys do over the years. It's a great service to the citizens, and appreciate being here.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Well, let's get into the questions.
All right.
You kind of answered a little bit, but why are you running for mayor?
Well, I'm running for mayor because I'd like to take the experience I have and lead the conversations on how can government lower its cost to the people that they serve. And I don't mean that just in Shakopee. I mean that, and it's not about let's just cut services. It's about having these conversations with the county, with the state, with the school, with all of our partners. And there's a couple of examples on how you can do these things. You of all people know we are a huge entertainment draw to the region. There's a cost that comes along with that. 2/3 of the arrests in Shakopee by Shakopee PD are people from outside the area that don't live here. The rest of us pay for that. A solution to that would be to seek state legislation that would allow us to have a tax on the users of them facilities. And then them dollars can go back to paying for the services so the rest of us don't. So, I want to have these conversations, and I certainly want to put the taxpayers that we serve first. Tough times, I kind of called that one out 2 years ago to be exact. We knew the federal spending through the COVID pandemic was going to trickle down, and I called it then. I said it's going to be a lot worse, and here we are. We've got high interest rates, high inflation. It's really squeezing everybody. And, government in general doesn't feel that squeeze because they just have endless revenue. And at some point, I've always been a stickler for really trying to look out after the taxpayer. So when I have them conversations, I think I have the experience to do that. And that's why I'm running for mayor.
Great. Thank you, Matt. What would you change about how the city Shakopee government, the Shakopee city government works?
Well, there's a lot of things that Shakopee is doing very well. What I would change would be the mindset, and I mean that because, and demeanor, mindset and demeanor. And, a couple of examples. We had a joint annexation agreement with Jackson Township. As the city grows, we'll annex properties as development comes. The understanding between the township and the city are 2 different things. When we agreed on this agreement, what we're actually doing is not what the township thought they were agreeing to. And we haven't really sat down with them and said, what did you think this agreement said? Here's what we would like to do, and work it out and have a friendly annexation agreement, and we haven't done that. Actually, we've just, they've taken legal action against us, and we just said, too bad, too sad, and we're moving forward. And that's not the relationship building we should have. So that's one area I'd like to see change. I'd like to see the mindset and the demeanor being that we're here to serve our taxpayers, and we're also here to have these relationships that are important, because now, moving down the road, you have Louisville Township, and what kind of message does that send to future annexation issues? So that's one example. We had the Canterbury development, where Scott County came to us right before our meeting with a letter saying, hey, can you take a pause? We'd like to talk to you about the county being able to capture a piece of the TIF to put toward their needs based on the transportation study that was done on that development for 83 and some other projects, and the city ignored it. So we can't be trying to work together on the taxpayers' best interest if we're not actually respectful and working together. So we've done that with the county. We've done it with the township, and there's others, excuse me, that we, and we don't need to be always asking for money from taxpayer money from different branches of government. There's ideas that we could be pursuing in legislative form that would actually save us money at these different levels. Like I explained with the user tax at these big venues that pull up a lot of resources that the rest of us are paying for. So I think there's a lot of different things we could do that would be beneficial to the taxpayers, and it would be beneficial to our future growth. So, that's, I think when you ask what I wanted to see different and how they operate, it would be the demeanor and the mindset. We need to have a mindset and a demeanor that we are here, and this goes to everybody, whether it's a police officer driving by or whatever, public works guys. We are here to serve our citizens. And a developer, granted, I've got a couple calls from developers where they say, geez, I went in, I've got this plat, 40-acre plat, single family, it's zoned properly, it's the right land use. The staff is trying to convince me to do something else with this land other than what it's actually legally, rightfully able to be used for. And, we shouldn't be necessarily doing that. We should be thanking them for coming here and giving us a product that helps our community. It's difficult when these little things that enter my mind and bother me. You can rent a 600 square foot studio apartment in Shakopee for what, $1,400? Might have went up now. But if you as a private citizen wanted to build an 800 square foot single layer level home on a private lot that you purchased and pay for the building all by yourself, it's not allowed in our zoning. Well, we want affordable housing, but apparently we're only going to support small affordable housing if it's taxpayer subsidized, not if it's privately funded out of your own pocket. Doesn't make sense to me. So there's another area where we could be working toward zoning changes that actually help the people that we serve in a market that's much needed. So these are areas where I think we could improve.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Coming out of the pandemic, businesses are being affected by lower labor participation, inflation, and supply chain issues. What, if anything, can the city do to help assist businesses as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, it's going to get worse because now they're talking about a rail strike. So let's just keep adding on. I called this 2 years ago. I absolutely nailed it when I was very concerned about the impacts moving forward of the government policy. Again, government policies 2 years ago, the spending and the impacts, ripple impacts moving forward. Now we've got the inflation. Now we've got the high interest rates to carry any kind of debt, which What do we do for our local businesses? Well, we as a city can't control the world or even the national supply chain. As much as we'd like to, we can't control the inflation or the high interest costs that some of these businesses are carrying for operational expenses or improvements or whatever, payroll at some point. But what we can do, we can shop and buy local. We really need to do that, and it doesn't mean just downtown. It means all of our businesses throughout Shakopee, wherever they may be located. Whenever possible, we need to be shopping and buying local. We need to be looking at regulations that are imposed on our local businesses, local regulations, maybe some state regulations that we could ask the state to change. One of them that bothers me is if you want to make a improvement to your business or build a new building, the city codes are requiring 50% glass fronting and these types of things. In some businesses, that is actually a really bad idea. It's actually dangerous in some businesses. So, we know crime is on the rise in the nation. There's a lot of pain out there. Glass fronts are just not a good idea in all cases. So I think we need to look at regulations. We need to certainly patronize our businesses. But the biggest thing I learned in business, my wife and I ourselves for almost 20 years, what businesses need is customers. Customers with the financial wherewithal to buy their product or service. And when the federal, state, and city governments and their policies really, really squeeze the taxpayers' pocketbook and their budgets, that's money that consumer no longer has to purchase businesses, products, and services. So, we need to please shop at your local businesses and buy their products and services whenever possible. It's really important that we try to keep our local economy strong. But on a bigger sense, we need to be doing everything we can possible for our taxpayers and our community to make them strong. Because without a strong consumer and community, it's a ripple effect on a lower scale than a national scale. So that's my answer.
Great. Thank you, Matt. What do you see as the most important issues facing Shakopee, and what will you do to address them?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the big issues facing Shakopee come from higher up policies at the federal level or whatnot. We can certainly lobby. Over the years, I've got great experience with both the federal, state, many other on both sides of the aisle. I've worked with both sides. I don't really care which side. Whoever has a good idea, I'm ready, willing, and able to work with them. Growth is a big issue. It's actually kind of scary. And not to pick on the Canterbury project or any of the TIF projects, but when we were doing some of these TIF things, I raised the concern that if there's an economic downturn moving forward, that's going to be very difficult. And let me explain how that becomes difficult. The city has sold a lot of debt to fund these with the expectation that future tax revenue from these improved properties will pay that debt. And this debt is taken on full faith and credit of the Shakopee taxpayers. Now that you have a chunk of land in a TIF district and you're looking for buildings to build on it, the company that wants to step forward to build these are going to pay substantially more for the money to build that building with the higher interest rates. Not only that, but the wood and the trucking cost and everything else that goes into building supply chain issues are there. The lead times are longer, waiting times are longer, the products cost a lot more with inflation. So we've made it very difficult for that to be successful. Okay, so we end up expanding the TIF district, bringing in new things to help offset some of them issues. Example, amphitheater. I like the idea. I love the location. I don't like the financing. And I explained that once already. We're going to have 20,000 people plus coming into our community. There's going to be services required. There's no general fund dollars coming off that project into the general fund to pay for policing and the street sweepers and all the other services that go along with it. So the rest of us are going to pay for these services for that venue. So I don't like the financing. Love to go to a concert there. But we have this problem with all of our TIF districts. So, we're moving out to the west into the township, touched on that a little bit. We are annexing 250 acres a year, whether it develops or not. We're paying the township dollars every year of lost revenue, whether it develops or not. And we're extending services. So we're actually extending some sewer services. Well, and the utility is going to put in the water and electricity. The city, I can't really speak for the utility, but the city side, we're using sewer fund dollars to fund these infrastructure in hopes that in the future, and these are dollars that were collected by everybody that has a sewer in Shakopee. On your sewer bill, you pay this little bitty amount that goes into this fund to maintain the existing system. But we're not using that money to maintain the existing system. We're using that money to put new infrastructure in for development that's not here yet. That's very risky, okay? Rogers did that. Development stopped. They had these lots all serviced and no development. So I'm not a fan of taking big risk with the taxpayers' money. You can turn around and bite you. It did in Rogers' case. So development and how we go about it. I want development to pay for itself. And there's a lot of areas where we, the taxpayers, are subsidizing this development. We're paying for our own city services, and we're paying for others' city services. And at the same time, we're saying we want to make your household more affordable. Well, so development's going to be a big issue. Inflation's going to be a big issue. Interest rates are going to be a big issue. It's probably going to affect the housing market. So, yeah, we've got some big challenges ahead for sure.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Speaking of development, what role should the city have in attracting new businesses to Shakopee or helping existing businesses expand?
I've been pretty consistent on this over many years. I'm not a fan of TIF or tax abatement for residential. I have supported tax abatement or TIF for jobs. Okay, if you're an existing business, 50 employees, 100 employees, whatever, and you want to double the size of your building, build onto the building, add market value to the city, hire a bunch of employees, I would absolutely support that, providing that the wages that your employees are going to be paid is too much money for them to be eligible for other taxpayer subsidized services. I don't want to subsidize a business to come here with wages that allow the employees to be eligible for subsidized healthcare, subsidized housing, subsidized energy, food, whatever, okay? It seems counterproductive to subsidize so that you can subsidize. The goal is to lift people up. And you do that by having a policy that requires the jobs pay a wage that they make too much money to be eligible for other taxpayer assistance. That's where you really gain, because now you let the opportunity is now there for your community to move up the economic ladder. And in doing so, you now have the consumer dollars to support your other businesses. So that's what I support.
Great. Thank you, Matt. That is it for our questions, so I'll give you the opportunity to give your closing statement and message to the voters.
All right, thanks, Tim. Well, my name is Matt Lehman. I do have a website. It's lehmanformayor.com. Facebook would be Matt Lehman for Shakopee. Tons of experience. What is it, 20 years I think it is now? I haven't been keeping track. A former long-term staff member of Shakopee told me that I am the longest serving city council member in Shakopee's history. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. they also said it takes the trust and confidence of the community. And I think I have that. I think most believe and understand and have seen by my track record that I'm kind of policy-based. I don't really care to bash other people because they have difference of opinions. And matter of fact, I've had some people that I've disagreed with on policy actually convince me from a different perspective that I didn't look at, that they had a better idea than I did. And that's really what it's all about. We're all in this together. We need to work together. Everybody knows that I have an open seat policy. Everybody gets a seat at the table. Everybody gets an opinion. All ideas are welcomed, and they're respected. So vote Matt Lehman for Shakopee Mayor, and let's put the citizens and the taxpayers first.
Great. Thank you, Matt. As a reminder, the views expressed in these interviews are those of the candidates, not those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber is sponsoring these events as a service to the community and has gone to great lengths to ensure the objectivity. The Chamber does not endorse any candidate, but seeks to provide you, the citizens, and voters of Shakopee with the information you need to make an informed choice. The Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau extends a sincere thank you to the candidates. Thank you again, Matt. We appreciate your time and your service to our community by running for office. You're performing an important service to us all. Again, thank you for joining us for this edition of Meet the Candidates 2022. Please join us September 29th at River Valley Church for our candidate forum. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org for more information. Thank you. Thanks again, Matt.
Thanks, Tim.